All right, I'm gonna give a little disclaimer before I start with giving my testimony. Is that some of the facts and things I'm going to give you are gruesome, I guess, maybe disgusting. But I think if I give you the true picture of what I walked through, you can also see the depth of God's love in those things. So if you cringe or that's okay. I did too. I was living it, and I did too. So anyway, for those of you that are new, my name is Casey Jones, and this last year and a half of my life was a little difficult, but God seen me through it. So I was diagnosed with colorectal cancer on February 3rd of 2021. I had been having some difficulties, so I went in to have a test. It was colonoscopy. And I was reassured by the doctor and the anesthesiologist and the nurse, oh, we're going to be in and out. You're so young. Everything is going to be just quick and easy. And they were all wrong. When I come out with colonoscopy, you're kind of groggy. You come out of it, and I seen the doctor over at the station that she was at, and she was on the phone with my dad. And I remember her telling him, just take her to get her something to eat really good this morning. Because I'd had a day and a half of not eating and all the prep and stuff. So I thought that's why she was telling him that. And she came over, and I expected to hear something simple that, and some treatment things. And she just grabbed my hand and she said, it wasn't what we thought. You do have a mass, and we took biopsies. She said, you're going to be sore for a few days, and we'll have to do some more tests. She said, I already have your appointment scheduled for next week. She said, be sure to bring someone that can be there with you, even though we're not allowing people in the building. She said, under the circumstances of what I probably will be telling you, you just need to have someone with you. She said, I didn't go into detail with your dad. Do you want me to call him back? And I said, no, I'll talk to him when I get outside. And so I did go outside, talk to my dad, give him what the scenarios. And she gave me two that, it could be, not cancerous. But by the looks of it, she was pretty certain by what she's done with her profession that she knew it was. So that was the longest week that I can remember. It felt like forever, and we went at the same time very quick. But the next week we did go back, and my parents were in the vehicle, and I went upstairs at Hastings in the new building and sit down. And Rosemary Hardbarker, I don't know, some of you know Rosemary, she's known me my whole life. She was the nurse that was with my doctor that day, and she walked out, and she already had the stuff in her hand, and she just walked in the door of the room that I was in, and she immediately started crying. And she said, Casey, I don't know what to say. And I said, so it is what she thought. And she said, yes. And she said, are you okay? You're not crying, you're not. And I just was very, I guess I was processing, and I was maybe a little in shock. I don't know. I kind of had prepared all week for what they had told me. But I just sit there, and she said, I know you're a woman of faith. And so I know that you're not alone in this. And I said, yes, ma'am, that's right. I know I'm not alone in this. And at that time, the doctor walked in and told me what the next steps were. She was going to send me downstairs to immediately start running some tests. We did blood work and a CT that day. I was first going to go downstairs, go outside and tell my parents, and then because it would take them a while to process those orders. If you know anything about Hastings, it takes a little bit sometimes. So I went downstairs, and on my way downstairs, I met Laura Lundberg, and she works there. And she said, hey, how are you? You have a doctor's appointment today? And I said, yes. And I told her what I found out. Before my parents. But she said, let me pray with you. And she prayed with me there in the hallway. And it just gave me a little bit more peace as I was walking outside, because I knew I knew how my mom was going to respond. I didn't exactly know how my dad would respond. And so I get out, I go downstairs, and my dad had come in because he actually had a doctor's appointment to get some blood work done. And so he was in the lobby. And so I went over to him, and he said, "Oh, you having some work done before they tell you your results?" And I said, "No." And so anyway, I told him that I had cancer, and he just put his arm around me and held me tight to his side for a minute, and then I said, "I need to go tell Mom." And he said, "Okay." My dad was he processed this thing very quietly. And so anyway, I went outside, told my mom, and she immediately started crying. I kind of knew that was going to be the process. So we went through that. But anyway, I did the test, and I'm going to kind of go through the next few things very speedily. But we did the test. Nothing much showed up in the CT. Blood work revealed that I did have cancer. Got in touch with my surgeon, who would remove the cancer in my colon. We got in touch with the oncologist. In between there, what did reveal on the CT, the cancer didn't show up on the CT, but there were fibroid tumors in my uterus. My uterus was full of tumors, which we didn't know at the time, at the first appointment. And so they took biopsies of those, one of the most painful things I've been through, because you don't get put under for that. They keep you awake. Anyway, biopsies of my uterus, sent them off. They ended up not being cancerous, thank the Lord for that. And but they were going to send me to a gynecologist that was also an oncologist, because they felt like they needed to be removed because of everything that was going on with my body. Next step was the MRI, which showed that I was at stage 3 with the tumor that was in my colon. If those come back from the uterus, then I would have been definitely stage 4, because I was stage 3C with just the colon, because it was also in the lymph nodes around the colon, which lymph nodes is how cancer spreads throughout the body. So they were trying to be careful of that. So the next big appointment was going to the oncologist. And so he did an exam and told me that day, he said, "We're going to have to do a total hysterectomy." He said, "It's just because of everything that's going on with your body and the lymph nodes that are affected, this could turn cancerous very fast." And I asked if we could save my eggs to give to my sister to see if maybe she could carry, because she's had trouble getting pregnant. And he said it would be too dangerous to put this off, because that would be 2 more months of putting off everything. He said, "It's just too dangerous. So I can't approve it." And I said, "Okay." And he talked to as a matter of fact, all my doctors, which was great. He didn't know me. He didn't know that was probably the hardest blow I had heard, even more than the cancer, that I had cancer, because I had saved myself. I'm pure, I'm a virgin, and I wanted kids more than I wanted life. But, so this is the point where I broke down emotionally inside. My parents had to stay outside, so I went and I sat in the car with them, and I told them what I found out. They were both just very quiet, and I was very quiet. I hadn't cried or anything, but inside I was very broken. And I think for the first time in the whole journey, I started first asking why. Even though I was ashamed of asking why, because He's God and He knows what's best for us. But I still asked why, because I'm human. And so over the next few days, we saw the oncologist and got my treatment plan, which was 6 weeks of daily chemo and radiation. And just from Monday through Friday. I wore a pump. So they put the pump on me on Mondays, took it off on Fridays. I went daily for radiation and Telequal. Every day was 15 to 20 minutes of radiation every day. He told me that I would get tired, The longer the process, more towards the end of the 6 weeks, I would really be feeling tired because of all the chemo and stuff going through my body and the radiation. And hopefully little to no nausea. Well, he was mostly right. But not completely. I did have quite a bit of nausea. But looking back, that portion was honestly not that bad at all. God give me the strength to endure. And all during this time, I'm still asking God why about not being able to have kids and these things, and why the cancer even. But I just determined in my heart, where am I going to go? I mean, yes, I'm upset about these things, but where am I going to go even though I'm upset? He's the one that's in control. He's the one that can help me. And he is the one who has a purpose for this. And so I just said, I trust you. And I took the next step. After that 6 weeks, I was given 6 more weeks to rest. And before the surgery, double surgery, to do the hysterectomy and remove the cancer. And to insert a stoma on my body. If you don't know what a stoma is, this is where it gets gross. So the colon, they had to take out over a foot of my colon. And when they did, they had to make a new way for me to produce waste out of my body. So they put this ball of tissue on my stomach, and things would come out of that ball of tissue instead of out the regular way that you would normally just, get rid of things. So anyway, so that it was very acidic and liquidy because of the different track. So they put a bag on you to take care of that, to hold that. So this was a very big traumatic surgery. Total hysterectomy, and then all this new attachment and stuff going on, and me learning how to take care of it. They told me that it could be permanent, or it could be just throughout my treatment, and I could have it reversed. So I was trying to learn my best while I was in the hospital to learn this situation. In the resting time, I was going to also mention our youth kids here at the church got me a ring. It's a mother's ring that has every birthstone of the year, and it was a big blessing to me. And they said I may not be able to have my own kids, but they're mine, and they're right. I would do anything in the world for them. Sorry. So I had people visit me while I was some of you visited me while I was in the hospital during that time, and it was a very big blessing. I get my strength from people, and I needed that. It was good for me. So the surgery and the hospital stay seemed to be going okay, but I woke up Sunday morning, and I thought I had peed all over myself, but that wasn't the case. I called for the nurse, and because I had a catheter, and I thought, it must have leaked. And so I called for the nurse, and it took them a few minutes to get in my room usually, but I reached down and I thought I'll just use the sheets to sop up whatever's the liquid, and when I pushed down to sop up the liquid, it was blood. And so they come in, and they didn't know where the blood had come from or where it was coming from, so they had to redo all of the tubes and everything that was coming out of me. They had to redo all the gauze and packing to see where it was coming from. And the nurse laid me back, and he stopped, and he looked over, and I had my Bible sitting because I had just read that morning, and he said, "Can I pray with you before I get started?" And I said, "Absolutely." And he bowed and he prayed, and I needed that because I was so nervous. I didn't have Mom and Dad there with me that day. And here's this blood coming from my body, and they can't figure out what's going on. But anyway, they figured out that it was some type of a rare, leave it to me to come up, rare thing, that it would blood seeping from the skin because of extra blood thinners they were putting in my body to keep blood clots out. So anyway, they put extra packing, and within a few days it corrected itself. I was cleaning and dressing myself with the bag very well, so they sent me home. I was very glad to be going home and thought that I had things with the bag straightened out. But I had not. With the swelling and stuff around my stomach from all the surgery, that swelling goes down, and so things change. Your swelling goes down and your shape changes. So the bag, and there are so many different brands of these bags that you can use. I had no idea. There's multiple. But anyway, we tried, and we went through samples, and I kept having problems. And like I said, when that would leak out, that was coming out was very acidic, and so it was eating my skin away around the area. And we got to where I was changing the bag 8 to 10 times or more a day. And I said, I was crying, I was in pain. Mom was trying to change for me because I wasn't able to, because I was in so much pain. They sent home health out. They would change it for me. They would leave. It would start leaking again. And it was just like this unending cycle. And I couldn't see a way out. And so I was just drowning. And I was crying out to God, literally out loud in bed with Mom right there. And Mom saying, sis, I don't know. I'm trying to do my best. And I'm telling her, I know you're doing your best, Mom. I know it's not your fault. I'm not angry with you, and I'm not angry with God. I just don't know what to do. I don't know where the relief's going to come from. I wasn't sleeping, and then I wasn't eating. My sister would drive from Van Buren as a nurse, and she would try to come and help us and redress me, and nothing was working. And there was a couple of nights I looked over at that pain medication bottle that was sitting next to me. And I'm ashamed to say, but I want to be honest about how low a person can get, even as a Christian, is that I wondered how many it would take to get me out of where I was. And God would bring one of my kids to my mind, or my friend, or one of her girls, or somebody to my mind that I loved and I knew I wanted to be here for, and I would make it to the next time. Sometimes it was verses, his promises that he would remind me of. I will never leave you or forsake you, even though it felt like my prayers weren't getting through the ceiling and he wasn't hearing me. And I finally told Mom, I said, I have to go to the hospital. I don't know what else to do. I'm not sleeping. Or I don't know if I'm going to make it. And so we went. And they put me in a room, and they quickly got me through the ER because I was a cancer patient, and put me in a room, and I was in intensive care. I was malnourished and dehydrated, and my skin was infected all the way around the stoma on my stomach. The doctor came in, and I was seeing a PA to get me in, and then the doctor came in the next morning after I'd spent the night, and I basically poured my heart out to what I had been through for the past 3 or 4 weeks. And I said, if you don't find someone or something to help me, I don't know what I'm going to do. And she went over and she shut the door, and she turned around. And she said, first we're going to ask the only person I know that can help us. And she began to pray. I've never had so many doctors pray in my life, but God interjected these people in the right places at the right times. And she said, I will not let you leave until we get you the help you need. And that's what I needed to hear, is that they were going to get me help. And she did. The nurse that came in, that was her specialty, was in this type of thing, was in these bags, and I can't think of the medical terminology for them, sorry, but she found one, and it was contoured, and so it was exactly what I needed. They started getting in, they worked. It stayed on for 4.5 hours, and I was about ready to shout. I was so thankful and so glad, because I had spent so much time in pain. And she said, if you need anything, or if you need me, you call and I will come out to your house, or you can come right here. And so God just really helped me out there, because I felt out of sorts. And then the doctor came in and asked my mom to leave the room. And she said, I'm going to give you some medication for depression and anxiety. She said, I know as a Christian sometimes we fight these things, but you need help getting through the situation you're in. It's situational, and I realize that, and I know you're a woman of faith. She said, but sometimes God gives us these things to help us through. And I've never been so thankful to start. And it's the low dose. She said I could quit them anytime. It's not anything, but that was hard for me, because that was something I always battled with, but it was what I needed. And God gave me the help I needed at that situation. She talked to me while my mom was out of the room. She felt like I had subconsciously given up. That's why I hadn't been eating, because there was no other reason why I shouldn't be eating or drinking. And I could say that I probably had, just because I was in so much pain. I was tired. If one way or another, I was ready to get out of where I was. She said, so we're going to eat today. And so she had a very big discussion about me eating a piece of dry toast that morning. But and I did, and actually ate more. I felt better. After a week, I got sent home with bags, and everything was going much better. And she told me I needed to build up, because I was getting ready to start on my 6-month journey of chemo that they did after the surgery. Started that in August. Things seemed to be going pretty well. Still had off and on trouble with the bag, but it wasn't near what it was before. But in September, I started having UTIs on a regular basis. Still have trouble with UTIs. I was hospitalized several times because of them with the chemo, but was managing and still going. To treatment. In November, I started, probably after Thanksgiving. I didn't eat much Thanksgiving. I was very sick. The chemo was really taking its toll on me. And I was trying not to let on how sick I was to my parents. I was trying to keep them from knowing. I was drinking as much Gatorade as I could tolerate, and eating what I thought I could tolerate. And honestly, by the end of the first week in December, nothing was staying down. The second week of December, nothing was staying down. By that Sunday night of the third Sunday of December, I told Mom, I said, I have to go. I can feel myself like something's not right. She said, okay, I was just waiting for you to say the word, because you've been fighting wanting to go to the doctor. I said, because they put me in every time I go. I'm so tired of the hospital. So I went in, and the other reason was they didn't want me just sitting in waiting rooms, because I was so susceptible to everything. So I got to Hastings, and she couldn't go in with me. And so I was wheeled in the wheelchair by the attendant that was at the door. And I was in the waiting room, and I had these bags that they give me to get sick in. And I was in the waiting room, in and out of consciousness and throwing up for 45 minutes before they got me back, finally into a room, or into triage, actually. The nurse that triaged me immediately called for someone in the back to come, because my blood pressure was not registering very high at all. And he was trying to get me to move my arms. He was moving my arms for me. He said, you've got to stay awake. I can't let you go to sleep. I think when they finally got me back to a room, it was 55 over something. I don't remember what the bottom number was. But I was, my kidneys were beginning to shut down. They took me to ICU, and they were saying, we can't keep her here. We can't help her here. We need to get her out. We need to get her out quick. Finally, when they got me back to our room, my mom came in. The nurse stepped out. And as he stepped out, he said, I don't know that she'll make it through the night. My mom was on the phone with my dad, trying to get him to come quickly. And And they finally got me stabilized. I don't remember a lot of this. I was in and out of consciousness, and I remember praying or asking God, because I remember what the nurse said as he stepped out. And I said, Lord, if you want to take me home, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm so ready. But if you have something more for me to do, let's get this done. I'm ready to get done, one way or the other. But I'm okay. Whatever you decide, I'm yours. Just help me make it whatever you decide. The next thing I remember is waking up and I was in the back of an ambulance being transferred to Springdale Hospital. And my sister and mom and dad met me over there. And Dad, I've never seen my dad cry, but he had tears in his eyes when he met me, when they met me over there. And I was there, and they had IVs in me and everything else you could think of. I woke up the next morning. My sister, I remember, was sitting in the corner. And they were like, oh, you have color today. And I did that. My veins had blown so much because my veins were so shot from chemo. I looked like, I had bruises all up and down my arms. The doctor that happened to be on rotation that night in the ER, that when I got transferred, was the same doctor that prayed with me months before. I say happened as Boaz happened, or Ruth happened upon Boaz's field type thing, that it was God. But they transferred me. I got hydrated. I ate for the first time after being there, I think 2 days. I ate some toast. The smells still got me. Mom and Dad couldn't cook for that 3 or 4 weeks I was at home because it smells, especially meat cooking. I couldn't handle it. But God gave me what I needed to get through. So I got out. That was in between Christmas and New Year's. It was hard for me. I'm used to spending New Year's with my friends. I didn't get to do that. I even got dressed and was at the door, and I told Mom, I said, I just can't. I was so weak, and I wanted to. It broke my heart to have to go back to bed, but I knew it was best for me to rest so that I could visit with him later. So anyway, we got back starting on treatments. I ended treatments in February. They did a PET scan in March, and I was called NED, which means no evidence of disease. And so now I've had a couple of scares, but thank God that worked out. They reversed the bag. They were able to take it off and reverse the stoma, so things go naturally. I go back every 6 months. After this next time, I will go back every 6 months for a scan. The next time I go back is in November. And then every time after that will be every 6 months, and I will do a PET scan to make sure things stay good for the next 5 years. I still have urinary incontinence from the radiation. I have neuropathy in my feet and hands, which means I don't always feel things. My grip in my hands. My hands are worse, or my feet are worse than my hands. They just throb and continually tingle all the time. So I constantly wondering where I can find better shoes. So if you have any suggestions. What I have learned through this is, or what I am learning, I won't say learning through this journey is that I have been bought with a price. My life is not my own. I belong to Him. I'm here to bring Him glory, not myself, and not to entreat myself in any way. It is all about Him. I can't say this is something I've learned, but I'm trying to live it out with an internal mindset. The mindset changes the way you live. this mindset in particular with the fact that your life is not your own. I view things differently even with my kids at school. I take every opportunity to share, if I can, about Jesus. I have a plaque that is on my desk that says, let Jesus start your day. And I pray with my team on a daily basis. One verse kept sticking out in different points of this journey, and it's whether therefore you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God. It is all about His glory, not about me. Even my desire to have kids, it's not bad to want kids, but He, somehow I pray, will have glory, even in that. Even if it's that I have more time to dote on my nieces, adopted nieces, or the kids that I have adopted as my own, I will continue to do that. But that's all I have. If you have any questions about any of it, I will try to answer.
What did they tell you about your chances of living? Did you know that going in, or did you...
They told me I had the cancer, colorectal cancer has a 70% rate of living 5 years beyond and beyond. Because of the severity of mine, it would depend on how I reacted to the treatment. And it showed a centimeter difference with the 6 weeks that I went through before. I didn't mention that, but it showed a centimeter shrunk to 1 centimeter all the way around, which was great. But not as much as they would want it, but it was something. It did shrink, so. But that was the prognosis they gave me at the beginning.
What, for people who haven't gone through anything even close to what you've gone through, what would you teach people who are around, who are trying to help a cancer patient? What would be the number one thing you'd say, this is what you need to do, this is what they need? Is everyone different, or what would you say?
I would say probably everyone may be a little different, but mostly just support of, I had many church members and other people offer to drive me to treatments, and of course Mom and Dad were going to appointments too at one time, and so they couldn't take me to everyone, and just offering to be, but prayer mostly. Prayer is powerful. Prayer is the biggest thing, and I would say everyone could benefit from that. Otherwise, just support, just continual, just offering what you're able to do, not beyond your means, but just what are you able to do? If all you're able to do is pray for them, and that's what I ask people mostly to do through the whole thing, is just pray. I don't know about if I could prepare anybody. That's what I said about the bag and that situation. I don't know that there was any amount of teaching they could have really prepared me to deal with that. Because I'll be honest, it truly just grossed me out. But it was part of what I had to do. And the way Dr. Klingon is I think that's funny, but Dr. Klingon, not Klingon, but Klingon is his name. But he was my surgeon, and he said that bag that you didn't like for so long is essentially what saved your life. It's what allowed us to everything to heal. And so I had to get a very good perspective on that. I didn't have the right perspective in the beginning, but I had to get a better perspective on, okay, this saved my life. So I need to think about that. Anything else? I hope it was beneficial and it helped somebody.
Thank you very much, Casey. Appreciate sharing and being honest with us. We love you.
Yeah, I love you.